So how do you actually transform from a naive target into a master strategist? Well, today, we are diving deep into this explainer to explore the ruthless yet undeniably effective principles of Niccolò Machiavelli. And look, this isn't about being evil or malicious. It's really about seeing the world exactly as it is, rather than how we kind of wish it were. Because the truth is, if you're too emotional or overly straightforward in today's cutthroat environment, people are absolutely going to use you. So our goal today is simple. Be a good person for sure, but definitely don't be a fool.
Now let me ask you this. Are you a good person, or are you just an easy target? It's a harsh question, I know, but really think about it for a second. Someone says a few sweet words, they drop a couple of nice compliments, and suddenly you're thinking, wow, this is a great person. They'd never do anything bad to me. Boom. You've just made the biggest mistake possible. You've handed over your blind trust, and you've fallen straight into a manipulation trap without even realizing the game has started.
To get you out of that trap, we're going to break this journey down into 4 distinct phases: the reality of trust, the silent strategist, decoding human nature, and finally, mastering emotional control.
All right, let's jump right into phase 1, the reality of trust. It's time to wake up from the illusion.
We really have to internalize that blind trust is basically a fantasy. And those sweet words we just talked about, often, they're literally just the opening moves in a game you don't even know you're playing. Consider the classic story of Eamon. You know the type, right? Eamon was the ultimate people pleaser. He was always available. If a friend called at 2 a.m., he answered. If a coworker needed help, he'd drop his own pressing tasks just to rush over and save the day. Everyone called him brother and constantly praised his pure heart. He felt deeply, deeply valued. But then, Eamon actually needed help himself. He hit a rough patch, called up those exact same brothers, and what happened next completely shattered his worldview. He was ignored. One didn't pick up, another was suddenly way too busy, a third made up some flimsy excuse. That was the day Eamon woke up. He realized these people weren't truly in his corner, they were just hanging around for what they could effortlessly extract from him. And Eamon's awakening brings us to this harsh but honestly super liberating truth. Relationships are built on value, not just feelings. Most relationships out there are really just unspoken transactions where both sides are getting something. It sounds a bit cold, I know, but it's incredibly practical. See, once Eamon realized this, he didn't get angry or bitter, he got smart. He didn't stop helping people entirely, but he absolutely stopped making his time and energy cheap. He started paying attention to who actually valued him versus who was just taking advantage. When you accept this reality, you immediately stop wasting your most precious resources on the wrong people.
So, the big takeaway here is this: trust, but verify. Never give blind trust. People can flip the second their interests change, and they're usually only loyal as long as it benefits them. Now, this doesn't mean you should walk around paranoid, side-eyeing everyone you meet. But it does mean you have to base your trust on careful, detached observation, not just your fleeting emotions. Not every smile is genuine, and not everyone who casually calls you a friend is actually going to be there when the chips are down.
Moving on to phase 2, the silent strategist. This is all about hiding your moves and your weaknesses. Okay, so once you've got a handle on who to trust, you need to look at what you're actually putting out into the world. In our hyper-connected modern world, controlling what you reveal is your absolute greatest armor. Think about the loud planner. You get super enthusiastic, tell a coworker you're planning to switch jobs, and boom, next week they drop a subtle hint to your boss totally sabotaging you. Or maybe you excitedly share a new business idea, and 6 months later, you're watching someone else launch it. That is not a coincidence, guys. That is the steep cost of loud planning. Now contrast that with the silent builder. Dangerously smart people keep their goals locked securely in their hearts and their plans entirely in their heads. They only execute on the ground. When the results finally drop, everyone is shocked. And why is this so effective? Because confused, surprised people just react, while the person who quietly controlled flow of information rules the whole game.
Machiavelli teaches us that the world doesn't see your internal reality. It only sees what you show it. If you broadcast your weaknesses and insecurities, people aren't going to coddle you, they're going to try to crush you. Picture a high-pressure meeting where literally everything is going wrong. If you panic openly, you lose your authority instantly. You absolutely must conceal that internal chaos. Even if you are completely lost inside, your exterior has to project absolute calm and control. Fake confidence isn't just acting, it's a vital, strategic tool. It secures half the victory before the battle even begins, because whether it's office politics or just everyday life, people are reacting entirely to your projected image, not your internal truth. Let's step into phase 3, decoding human nature. Finding that perfect balance of fear, respect, and desire. Now that your own house is in order, let's shift from defense to offense and talk about workplace dynamics.
If you're just playing the nice person, like the friendly boss, you become an easy target. Deadlines get blown right past, boundaries get crossed, and honestly, you get walked all over because there are zero real consequences. On the flip side, if you play the tyrant, the strict boss, sure, people might nervously nod to your face, but they'll absolutely plot to backstab you the second you turn around. True power? It lies right in the middle, the calm, fair boss. This person is beautifully balanced. They don't fly off the handle with volatile emotions, but if someone crosses a line, there are immediate, calm, and very firm consequences. People respect them, but they also have a healthy fear of crossing them. Always remember, your respect is built by your unshakable standards, not by your words.
To really get people, you have to look right past what they're saying. People will always give you a nice, clean, socially acceptable reason for what they do. But dangerously smart strategists, they know humans are deeply driven by what we call the hidden void. So, what is that? Well, it's an unfulfilled desire. It could be a hunger for power, a desperate need for attention, or maybe a drive to escape some crippling insecurity. They hide this void from the world, but make no mistake, it dictates almost every single decision they make.
So how do you spot this void? It's simple. You stay completely silent and you just watch their behavior. That person who constantly repeats their same old accomplishments, they are starved for validation. The one who gets incredibly defensive over tiny, constructive criticisms, deeply insecure. The guy always showing off his shiny new purchases, he lacks internal satisfaction and relies on external applause. And you know the person who constantly shouts, "I don't care," at every turn? Yeah, they almost certainly care the most. Their behavior is loudly broadcasting the exact weaknesses they're desperately trying to cover up.
And here is where manipulation transforms into absolute mastery. Say you meet a guy on Instagram flaunting a fake luxury lifestyle. He looks super confident, but based on what we just learned, you know he's practically starving for attention. Normal people, they'll argue, call him out, try to use logic to prove he's faking it. But dangerously smart people, they just quietly feed that hidden desire. They give him a little validation, a little praise, and suddenly he's completely drawn to them. Or think about a selfish coworker who only cares about their own promotion. Don't appeal to their team spirit, that is a total waste of breath. Just show them exactly how helping you benefits them, and they'll happily do the work. You aren't forcing anyone, you're literally just giving them what they already crave.
Finally, we arrive at Phase 4, Mastering Emotional Control. This right here is the ultimate power.
Look, if you can't master yourself, none of those previous rules even matter. Your emotions are hands down your biggest liability. Anger blinds you. Fear stops you. Emotion exposes you. When you get angry, you're no longer thinking critically, you're just reacting, and reactions are always predictable. If you're predictable, you're not playing your own game anymore. You've officially become a pawn in someone else's. The easiest target in the world is the person who can't control their own emotional triggers. Why? Because all an opponent has to do is push one little button, and you end up defeating yourself.
Let's break this down into a real-world scenario. Imagine someone insults you publicly or launches this totally unprovoked attack on social media. They're doing this intentionally, hoping you'll lash out emotionally so they can control the narrative and make you look completely unhinged. Now, instead of firing back some furious reply and wasting your energy, you deploy the pause. You do absolutely nothing. You just let the silence sit there. Because you didn't expose your trigger, you create massive confusion for the attacker. They have no idea what you're thinking, and they quickly realize their little tactic completely failed. Ultimately, that silence allows you to retain total control. You can calmly decide if a response is even worth your time, entirely on your own terms.
Dangerously smart people don't kill their emotions, they just hide them and use them strategically. They know exactly when to show anger to make a point, when to stay calm to diffuse a situation, and when to go completely silent to take all the power back in the room. And that brings us to this crucial takeaway. Your true power isn't what you feel, it's what you show. The day you learn to completely master your outward reactions, no one will ever be able to emotionally manipulate you again.
So, we've unpacked the reality of trust, the absolute power of silence, the hidden desires driving human nature, and the ultimate weapon of emotional control. I want to leave you with one final thought to chew on today. If you can't control your emotions, who is controlling you? It's time to stop being an easy target and start observing the board. Game on.